My name is Legion, for we are many. See, James, it's not just about you or Edward, for that matter. It's about everyone. The entire human race. All of us against all of you.
Well, if that's the case, your side's not doing too well.
Do you really believe that, James?
Yeah. We've never been freer. Literacy is at an all-time high. We're working to eliminate racism, intolerance, gender inequality. People can love who they want, be who they want, do what they want. Diversity is no longer a dream. Hate speech is no longer tolerated. And politically, we're reclaiming the moral high ground.
James, I think I love you. Literacy, James. James, the average high school graduate reads at a 6th grade level. You have basketball players making $30 million a year decrying racism, all while wearing sneakers made from slave labor. Now here's something for you. Right now, your world currently has 40 million slaves. More than the Romans had at the height of their empire. You want to know the best part, though? Half of those, are sex slaves, James. As for hate speech, well, you want to hear some irony? We didn't even come up with that one. You did it all by yourself. Sometimes you amaze even us.
I fail to see the humor.
Bottom line is you're done. It's over, that's it. And we did it all right to your face, James. And now there's evil everywhere. And no one even cares.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Proving that we achieved our goal. Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media, we desensitized you. Redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face. More to the point, James, you can't even feel it when you're doing it. And as for winners and losers, whoa. That gets decided at the time of death. The exact numbers are a closely guarded secret, but there are more of you ending up in my master's house than with the enemy. A lot more, Jimmy.
That's from the movie Nefarious. As any truther knows, they like telling us the truth, occasionally, in movies. They virtually never tell the truth on mainstream news, but every now and then they'll let some truth slip out in movies. Notice what the demons said about redirecting our worldviews.
Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media, we desensitized you. Redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face.
That's what I want to focus on in today's video. Because the enemy or the controllers, whatever you want to call them, have a goal of redirecting our worldviews. Just like Nefarious said. That's why they purposefully leave worldviews out of the education curriculum. They definitely don't want the majority knowing what a worldview actually is, or that everyone necessarily has one. So I'll be covering that. Then, more importantly, I'll cover how the enemy is warping our worldviews to lead humanity astray. Redirecting our worldviews is a major aspect of how they maintain control over us, and ultimately how Satan wins many souls in the end. A worldview is the complete system of propositions that a person starts with to interpret his sense data through, so that he can function in the world. It's a complete system or framework of propositions one starts with. The definition given by most dictionaries is far too vague, which is deliberate. For example, Oxford Languages defines a worldview as a particular philosophy of life or conception of the world. This is an almost useless definition. It leaves out the fact that a worldview is a complete system or framework of propositions. It's not just one philosophical position. It's an entire system of propositions that a person starts out assuming to be true, all of which work together to form a framework or model of reality. And everyone must start out affirming such a system of propositions. It's required, not a choice one can be neutral or withhold judgment about. Because without a worldview, it wouldn't even be possible to speak intelligibly in the first place. I'll cover why that is in more detail later. But first, I'll cover the most fundamental categories within any worldview. The three most fundamental categories within any worldview are metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. Everyone necessarily affirms a position on each of these, whether he realizes it or not. There are other categories within one's worldview that it's possible to be neutral or withhold judgment about, such as cosmology, but not for these three. They're just too fundamental. Before I tell you the lie, followed by the truth, for each of these categories, here's a question for truthers. Is Eric Dubay correct when he claims that flat Earth is the most important truth?
If you think of it a little deeper than that, and you think of it as being the most fundamental lie, is where we are, the earth beneath our feet, the lights in the sky above us, what they actually are. And if we've been lied about all of these, it becomes a big deal. The most fundamental lie is where we are.
So is Eric right about this? Well, the answer is no. He's speaking either out of ignorance or malevolence. I'll let you decide which, but flat Earth isn't the most important truth, nor could it possibly be. Don't get me wrong, flat Earth certainly is important to know about. It's just not the most important and the most fundamental truth, like he claims it is, because of the way worldviews are structured, systemically. Cosmology can't be the ultimate within the system. I'll cover that more in a bit. But first, flat Earth is important because of the entailments that follow once it's understood that we've been lied to on such a massive scale. It means that all the nations of the world are secretly working together. It means that the apparent opposition between them is merely an act. And it entails that narcissists are in charge, via a web of secret societies. Narcissists who possess nothing resembling an ethical center. Narcissists who are willing to lie about anything and everything to maintain control over the rest of us, and more. So, don't get me wrong, flat Earth certainly is important to know about. But cosmology can't possibly be the ultimate truth. This is systematically true by simply evaluating the systematic nature of worldviews. Whatever is ultimate within the system must have all the attributes necessary to justify the preconditions for knowledge, rational thought, and intelligibility. And no cosmology could possibly have all those attributes. The ultimate truth is actually included in what I'm about to tell you regarding metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. But first, I'll cover the lies we've been taught for each category. Because cosmology isn't the only aspect of our worldviews that we've been deceived about, unfortunately. The world indoctrinates humanity into materialism for metaphysics, empiricism or scientism for epistemology, and moral relativism for ethics. All three of these lies are demonstrably self-refuting, which means they're false by necessity. If you want demonstration of this, leave a comment below and I'll walk you through it. But that's not the point of this video, and it'll distract too much to do it here. Anyhow, all three of these lies are taught as a given by the world. This is more important than cosmology because of how fundamental these categories are. So let's get to the crux of the matter. What's the true position for all three? And how is this proven? For metaphysics, it's the creator-creature distinction. A universal mind, the creator, necessarily exists. And he's distinct from his creation, which is the world we live within. For epistemology, it's a revelatory epistemology with the Bible as the ultimate standard for truth. And for ethics, the moral standards taught in the Bible are objectively true. What I just told you is not just a matter of opinion. It's a demonstrable fact. The world has indoctrinated everyone to assume that worldviews are just mere opinions or subjective beliefs. But this is yet another deception. We can know and prove what the correct worldview is. So how do I know I'm right, you might ask? Click here to see the entire deductively valid and sound argument proving it. Keep in mind that a deductively valid and sound argument has a conclusion that's necessarily true. It's a proof. And this is the ultimate truth. The Christian God probably exists, and the Bible is the true word of God. Everything written within it is necessarily true. And this specific combination of metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics must be presupposed first, before X is even possible. This means, even just to engage in debate, this metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics must be presupposed. By both sides. All three of them must be presupposed for X to be possible, because metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics are reciprocal, and necessarily codependent upon one another. And anyone who starts out presupposing any other worldview will be engaging in contradiction. Because any other worldview won't have justification for the preconditions for X, entailing that X isn't possible. So anyone operating through any other worldview will be presupposing X is possible, and X is not possible at the same time. When your worldview entails contradiction like that, it's necessarily false. This is only the most basic description of presup. For a walkthrough of the complete argument, from start to finish, click here. It includes the entire conceptual analysis, which lists all the preconditions for X, along with how deduction is applied to arrive at a specific list of attributes, for whatever must necessarily exist to justify them all, such that the system entails X as possible. Only the biblical God has all those attributes, proving he must necessarily exist. And I cover how all three positions, the metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics of the biblical worldview, are necessary within the system. Otherwise, the system can't justify the preconditions, and it entails X is impossible. Meaning, the system is contradictory and necessarily false.